Hello friends, my name is Chaitanya. I am an advocate practicing at Kakinada, Andhra Pradesh. In my last lecture, I told you about trial of criminal cases, trial before a court of session, trial of warrant cases by magistrate, cases instituted otherwise than a police report. In this lecture, under trial of criminal cases, I want to tell you about trial of summons cases by magistrate and summary trial, and another topic that is plea bargaining. In this lecture, I want to tell you about under trial of criminal cases. Trial of summons cases by magistrate. And summary trial. Coming to trial of summons cases by magistrate. Trial of summons cases by magistrate, section 251 to 259. Trial of summons cases by magistrate, section 251 to 259. According to section 2 of CRPC, summons case means a case relating to an offence and not being a warrant case. All cases which are not punishable by death, imprisonment for life, or for more than 2 years are summons cases. Magistrate need not frame charge, but only the particulars of the offence need to be conveyed to the accused. A summons case cannot have charges that require a warrant case. Summons cases are tried with much less formality than warrant cases, and the manner of their trial is less elaborate. Even the method of recording the evidence is less formal. According to Law Commission, a summary trial is an abridged form of regular trial and is resorted to in order to save time in trying petty cases. Coming to substance of accusation to be stated. According to section 251, when in a summons case the accused appears or is brought before the magistrate, the particulars of the offence of which he is accused shall be stated to him, and he shall be asked whether he pleads guilty or has any defense to make, but it shall not be necessary to frame a formal charge. This is about substance of accusation to be stated, section 251. Coming to conviction on plea of guilty. According to section 252, if the accused pleads guilty, the magistrate shall record the plea as nearly as possible in the words used by the accused and may in his discretion convict him thereon. This is about conviction on plea of guilty, section 252. Coming to conviction on plea of guilty in absence of accused in petty cases. According to section 253, where a summons case has been issued under section 206 and the accused desires to plead guilty to the charge without appearing before the magistrate, he shall transmit to the magistrate by post or by messenger a letter containing his plea and also the amount of fine specified in the summons. The magistrate may, in his discretion, convict the accused in his absence on his plea of guilty and sentence him to pay the fine specified in the summons, and the amount transmitted by the accused shall be adjusted towards that fine. Or where a pleader authorized by the accused in his behalf pleads guilty on behalf of the accused, the magistrate shall record the plea as nearly as possible in the words used by the pleader and may in his discretion convict the accused on such plea and sentence him as aforesaid. This is about conviction on plea of guilty in absence of accused in petty cases, section 253. Coming to procedure when not convicted, according to section 254, if the magistrate does not convict the accused under section 252 or 253, the magistrate shall proceed to hear the prosecution and take all such evidence as may be produced in support of the prosecution, and also to hear the accused and take all such evidence as he produces in his defense. The magistrate may issue a summons to any witness directing him to attend or to produce any document or other thing. This is about procedure when not convicted, section 254. Coming to acquittal or conviction. According to section 255, if the magistrate, upon taking the evidence, finds the accused not guilty, he shall record an order of acquittal. If the magistrate finds the accused guilty, pass sentence upon him according to law. This is about acquittal or conviction, section 255. Coming to non-appearance or death of complainant. According to section 256, if the complainant does not appear on the appointed day, the magistrate shall acquit the accused unless for some reason he thinks it proper to adjourn the hearing of the case to some other day. Where the complainant is represented by a pleader or by the officer conducting the prosecution, or where the magistrate is of opinion that the personal attendance of the complainant is not necessary, the magistrate may dispense with his attendance and proceed with the case. This is about non-appearance or death of complainant, section 256. Coming to withdrawal of complaint. According to section 257, if a complainant at any time before a final order is passed in any case under this chapter satisfies the magistrate that there are sufficient grounds for permitting him to withdraw his complaint against the accused, or if there be more than one accused against all or any of them, the magistrate may permit him to withdraw the same and shall thereupon acquit the accused against whom the complaint is so withdrawn. This is about withdrawal of complaint, section 257. Coming to power to stop proceedings in certain cases. According to section 258, in any summons case instituted otherwise than upon complaint, a magistrate of the first class or with the previous sanction of the chief judicial magistrate, any other judicial magistrate may, for reasons to be recorded by him, stop the proceedings at any stage without pronouncing any judgment, and where such stoppage of proceedings is made after the evidence of the principal witnesses has been recorded, pronounce a judgment of acquittal, and in any other case release the accused, and such release shall have the effect of discharge. This is about power to stop proceedings in certain cases, section 258. Coming to power of court to convert summons cases into warrant cases. According to section 259, when in the course of the trial of a summons case relating to an offence punishable with imprisonment for a term exceeding 6 months, it appears to the magistrate that in the interest of justice, the offence should be tried in accordance with the procedure of trial of warrant cases. Such magistrate may proceed to rehear the case in the manner provided by this court for the trial of warrant cases, and may recall an witness who may have been examined. This is about power of court to convert summons cases into warrant cases, section 259. This is about trial of summons cases by magistrate, section 251 to 259. After trial of summons cases by magistrate, section 251 to 259, coming to summary trial. Summary trial, sections 260 to 265. Summary trial, sections 260 to 265. Summary trial is a simple trial. It is an abridged form of regular trial and is a shortcut in procedure. There is no chance of appeal in summary cases. The magistrate need not record the evidence of the witnesses or frame a formal charge. The recording of evidence is not necessary. The procedure for a summons case is to be followed subject to special provisions made in this behalf. The maximum sentence that may be awarded by the way of a summary trial is 3 months with or without fine. The magistrate may give up the summary trial in favor of the regular trial if he finds it undesirable to try the case summarily. The judgment is to be delivered in an abridged form. Section 260 lists certain offences which may be summarily tried by any chief judicial magistrate, any metropolitan magistrate, or any judicial magistrate of first class. A first class magistrate must be first authorized by the respective high court to that effect before he may try cases summarily under this section. The following offences may be tried summarily. Offences not punishable with death, life imprisonment, or imprisonment for a term exceeding 2 years. Theft under section 379, 380 and 381 of IPC, provided that the value of the stolen property is below rupees 2000. Receiving or retaining stolen property under section 411 of the Penal Code, where the value of the stolen property is below rupees 2000. Assisting in the concealment or disposal of stolen property under section 414 of the Penal Code, where the value of the stolen property is being below rupees 2000. Lurking house trespass, section 454 of IPC, and housebreaking, section 456 of IPC at night. Insult with an intent to provoke a breach of peace under section 504 and criminal intimidation under section 506 of IPC. Abetting of any of the previously mentioned offences. Attempt to commit any of the previously mentioned offences. Offences with respect to which complaints may be made under section 20 of the Cattle Trespass Act 1871. These are the offences that may be tried summarily. Coming to summary trial by magistrate of the second class. According to section 261, the High Court may confer on any magistrate invested with the powers of a magistrate of the second class power to try summarily any offence which is punishable only with fine or with imprisonment for a term not exceeding 6 months with or without fine, and any abetment of or attempt to commit any of such offence. This is about summary trial by magistrate of second class, section 261. Coming to punishment awardable. According to section 262, in summary trial, the procedure specified for the trial of summons case shall be followed. No sentence of imprisonment for a term exceeding 3 months shall be passed in case of conviction. This is about punishment awardable, section 262. Coming to a record in summary trials. According to section 263, in every case tried summarily, the magistrate shall enter in such form as the state government may direct the following particulars, namely the serial number of the case, the date of the commission of the offence, the date of the report of complaint, the name of the complainant, the name, parentage and residence of the accused, the offence complained of and the offence proved, the value of the property in respect of the offence, the plea of the accused and his examination, the finding, the sentence or other final order, the date on which proceedings terminated. This is about record in summary trials, section 263. Coming to judgment in cases tried summarily. According to section 264, in every case tried summarily in which the accused does not plead guilty, the magistrate shall record the substance of the evidence and a judgment containing a brief statement of the reasons for the finding. This is about judgment in cases tried summarily. Section 264. Coming to language of record and judgment. According to section 265, every such record and judgment shall be written in the language of the court. The High Court may authorize any magistrate empowered to try offences summarily to prepare the aforesaid record or judgment or both by means of an officer appointed in his behalf by the Chief Judicial Magistrate, and the record or judgment so prepared shall be signed by such magistrate. This is about language of record and judgment, section 265. This is about summary trial, section 262, 265. This is about trial of criminal cases. After trial of criminal cases, the next topic is plea bargaining. plea bargaining sections 265A to L. Sections 265A to 265L. Plea bargaining is admission of guilt for lesser punishment. Plea bargaining can conclude a criminal case without a trial. Plea bargaining can be defined as pre-trial negotiations or a deal or an agreement between the accused and the prosecution or their counsel by which the accused agrees to plead guilty in exchange for certain confessions in terms of lightening the sentence by the prosecution. Plea bargaining is also known as plea agreement, plea deal, negotiated plea, or copying a plea. This system was introduced as a result of criminal law reforms in the Criminal Law Amendment Act 2005. The Act was passed on January 11, 2006, and the provisions were notified and came into effect from July 5, 2006. To ensure fair justice, plea bargaining must encompass the following minimum requirements. They are: the hearing must take place in court, the accused must plead the guilty voluntarily and knowingly. Coming to types of plea bargaining, there are three types of plea bargaining: charge bargaining, sentence bargaining, and fact bargaining. Coming to charge bargaining, in charge bargaining, a defendant pleads guilty to a less serious crime than original charge. It occurs when the defendant pleads guilty to necessarily included offences. The benefit is that it gives the accused an opportunity to negotiate with the prosecution and reduce the number of charges that may be framed against him or her. This is about charge bargaining. Coming to sentence bargaining, it involves the agreement to a plea of guilty in return for a lighter sentence. It saves the prosecution the necessity of going through trial and proving its case. It also gives the defendant an opportunity for a lighter sentence. This is about sentence bargaining. Coming to fact bargaining, it involves negotiations and admissions of certain facts stipulating to the truth and existence of provable facts, thereby eliminating the need for the prosecutor to prove them in return for a agreement not to introduce certain facts into evidence. This is about fact bargaining. These are types of plea bargaining. Coming to applicability of plea bargaining. According to section 265A, the plea bargaining could be restored to only in the cases of offences other than the offences for which the punishment of death or of imprisonment for life or imprisonment for a term exceeding 7 years are prescribed. Offences involving socio-economic conditions of the country or offences against women and children below 14 years of age are excluded from the purview of plea bargaining. In a case, State of Uttar Pradesh versus Chandralal, 2000 Criminal Law Journal, page number 384, the Supreme Court held that it is settled law that on concept of plea bargaining, a court cannot dispose of the criminal cases. This is the decision given by the Supreme Court in the case State of Uttar Pradesh versus Chandralal. This is about applicability of plea bargaining, section 265A. Coming to application for plea bargaining, according to section 265B, a person accused of an offence may file an application for plea bargaining in the court in which such offence is pending for trial. This is about application for plea bargaining, section 265B. Coming to guidelines for mutually satisfactory disposition. According to section 265C, in a court instituted on a police report, the court shall issue notice to the public prosecutor, the police officer who has investigated the case, the accused, and the victim of the case to participate in a meeting to work out a satisfactory disposition of the case. It shall be the duty of the court to ensure that the entire process is completed voluntarily by the parties participating in the meeting. In a case instituted otherwise than on police report, the court shall issue notice to the accused and the victim of the case to participate in a meeting to work out a satisfactory disposition of the case. This is about guidelines for mutually satisfactory disposition, section 265C. Coming to a report of the mutually satisfactory disposition. According to section 265D, the court shall prepare a report of such disposition which shall be signed by the presiding officer of the court and all other persons who participated in the meeting, and if no such disposition has been worked out, the court shall record such observation and proceed further in accordance with the provisions of this code. This is about report of the mutually satisfactory disposition, section 265D. Coming to disposal of the case. According to section 265E, where a satisfactory disposition of the case has been worked out under section 265D, the court shall dispose of the case and shall award the compensation to the victim in accordance with the disposition under section 265D, and hear the parties on the quantum of the punishment, releasing of the accused on probation of good conduct, or after admonition under section 360, or for dealing with the accused under the provisions of the Probation of Offenders Act 1958, or any other law for the time being in force. This is about disposal of the case, section 265E. Coming to judgment of the court. According to section 265F, the court shall deliver its judgment in terms of section 265E in the open court, and the same shall be signed by the presiding officer of the court. This is about judgment of the court, section 265F. Coming to finality of the judgment. According to section 265G, the judgment delivered by the court under section 265G shall be final, and no appeal shall lie in any court against such judgment, except special leave petition under Article 136 and writ petition under Articles 226 and 227 of the Constitution. This is about finality of judgment, section 265G. Coming to power of the court in plea bargaining. According to section 265H, a court shall have For the purposes of discharging its functions under this chapter, all the powers vested in respect of bail, trial of offences, and other matters relating to the disposal of a case in such court under this code. This is about power of the court in plea bargaining, section 265H. Coming to period of detention undergone by the accused to be set off. According to section 265I, the provisions of section 428 shall apply for setting off the period of detention undergone by the accused against the sentence of imprisonment imposed under this chapter in the same manner as they apply in respect of the imprisonment under other provisions of this code. This is about period of detention undergone by the accused to be set off. Section 265I. Coming to statements of accused not to be used. According to section 265K, the statements or facts stated by an accused in an application for plea bargaining filed under section 265B shall not be used for any other purpose except for the purpose of this chapter. This is about statements of accused not to be used, section 265K. Coming to non-application of the chapter. According to section 265L, nothing in this chapter shall apply to any juvenile or child as defined in subclass K of section 2 of the Juvenile Justice Act 2000. This is about non-application of the chapter, section 265L. This is about plea bargaining, section 265A to 265L. This is the end of this lecture. In my next lecture, I want to tell you about general provisions as to inquiries and trials. So, thank you everyone. Have a nice day.